like I pull my gun out, essentially, and I'm arguing, gun goes off, I drop the gun, and then I remember being in my apartment after that.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. Sorry for the calendar mix up there, the time
We're good.
switch. So why don't you're originally from Sarasota.
Yeah.
Take us through early childhood. What was that like?
So I'd say I had a pretty good childhood, like family's still together. I'm the youngest. I got 2 older sisters. Only one with addiction, for sure. At least that we know of, even in my immediate family. But, I would say like normal middle class upbringing, no trauma, no abuse, nothing horrible. However, in hindsight, of course, you look back now and I'm like, oh, like I always felt a little bit left out or different. Like always felt like the black sheep looking back in hindsight. And that's not like in a victim way. I just think I've always been different, right? Which I think a lot of us recovering addicts feel that way, right? Where whatever it is, there's just that void was there early on. But I would say relatively normal childhood. My parents had a furniture business they had started. My dad's from Copenhagen, Denmark originally. So furniture is a big thing in Europe and Denmark. And so my parents, built up their own business. I would say that's probably where I got my entrepreneurial spirit from, was seeing them, and I basically grew up in their business and learned how to build furniture in a warehouse at a very young age and riding their delivery truck and got my work ethic for sure. But no one in my family was like drank alcoholically, drug use. So it wasn't until probably like middle school, with some buddies of mine, their older brothers were like selling weed and stuff like that. And, stealing Smirnoff Ice and like that, right? But I remember alcohol definitely grabbed me from the very beginning when I look back. There was many years opioids and other things were my kind of drug of choice. But when I really look back, like alcohol was always a main actor there.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely the initiator. That's why people say, oh, marijuana is a gateway drug. Not for me, dude. Alcohol, I think. Although marijuana was there very early on. It was like 12, 13 where I got into it with my buddies. And, I remember, my buddy's brother, of course, he went to private Catholic school, right? But he's selling the weed to all the private school kids. And I remember early on him dropping us off at the movie theater, and he had like a Ford Explorer with like 212s in the trunk and bumping 3-6 Mafia, and would be just ripping a bong in the back seat at 13 years old, and getting dropped off at the movie theaters. And that was like our thing. And of course, it was all fun and games back then, right? But that's where I'm like, all right, I like this altered state. And very early on, it became, any chance we could, we were getting high. And then I got caught pretty quickly at like 13. And that really ended my weed career for like 15 years. But the alcohol in high school, and when I look back, I was little. I was like 5'2", 5'3", 115 pounds. I'm sitting on a phone book when I'm getting my learner's permit. And like I remember my dad had a Tahoe and I'm sitting on a fucking phone book. And looking back, there was a lot of insecurities there, right? All my buddies are getting bigger. The sports is coming into play. And I'm now not one of the most athletic. I'm now just a little guy, right? So I think even then, you're looking for how you fit in. So it was like humor, and then the booze made me have that confidence and kind of fit in. But there was a part of me looking back that I lost like that strength, I would say. So, so the booze came in, every weekend. And then even when I look back, I'm like, dude, spring break, I was drinking every day. Like even if we were 15, 16 years old, it was like, I look back, talk to my boys. I'm like, how did we even graduate? Like I feel like I didn't do homework. We just like partied any chance and smoking Black and Milds, and we're getting dropped off at Siesta Key Beach and just getting, people to buy us booze or whatever we could. But But if you would have asked me, I would have said, oh, we're just normal kids, partying in high school, whatever. I do think growing up, Florida's got a reputation. And I did realize when I'd meet people from other states, Florida's a little bit rowdy for sure. And I don't know if we had more freedom or just it's the culture, but, you just get dropped off at the beach all day and you just get fucked up. And I don't know if our parents didn't notice or they just out of sight, out of mind. But I mean, there was definitely times, I got caught. My first legal problem was drinking on the beach. I think I was 16. Me and like 10 other kids, and I'm drinking Hypnotic out of a Gatorade water bottle.
Hypnotic.
That bright blue, and cop comes out. It's next to my foot. And of course, is that yours? I'm like, yeah, just telling myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one that gets brought up to the little police department on the beach. My parents pick me up. Next thing you know, I'm in teen court, right? So I got to go through that. They take me to the Scared Straight camp, or I'm with the SWAT team, running miles, and they take me to county jail and got the prisoners yelling at me. And, that was a horrible experience. Like, it wasn't fun, but it was my first kind of running with the law. And I was grounded for a little while, but definitely by no means was it like, oh, you have a problem. It was just like, oh, I just
Knucklehead
draw. Yeah. And, my friend should have taken the rap. Why am I the only one? But so that was my first kind of, consequence, I would say. And besides that, I definitely wake up around the toilet. My dad would be like, oh, but we were kids being kids. I was pretty responsible. So
don't let your mom see it. One thing I've learned in my own recovery is that you can't do this alone. And you don't have to. I know that firsthand. I went through inpatient treatment at Caron treatment centers, and it changed the course of my life. That's why I am proud to announce that I have partnered with Caron. For nearly 70 years, they've helped people and families not just break free from addiction, but actually heal and transform their lives. They're in network with all major insurance providers, and same-day admission is available. So if you or someone you love is struggling, don't wait. Call Caron at 855-352-0103. That's 855-352-0103. Help starts with taking that first step.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Yeah. I'd wake up and there'd be like, pop off vodka bottle on the kitchen counter and a bunch of Grizzly or Copenhagen cans. And he's like, look what I found in your car. And it's like,
yeah,
all right, you got me, But thankfully, no real repercussions. But it really took off. I would say it was my senior year of high school when I found Roxys, Roxycodone, the M30s.
You found them young.
Yeah, they were big in Florida, right? It was, and I remember it was going into prom around the end of the year, girlfriend of mine. And I remember all my buddies at the time, everyone's getting their wisdom teeth pulled, and I was in debutante, right? I was an escort for some girl in debutante. We're going to all these fancy parties all year. And naturally, like, we're all partying, right? And, but everyone like, oh, I got some Percocets, and it was just kind of whatever. Well, I specifically remember those Roxy 30s like the first time. It was like, this is how the fuck I should feel always. This is the feeling I'm looking for. And I remember I like snorted one, and I just went and had a great conversation with my dad where I was like, oh, I feel like I'm bonding with my dad. It was like, and I think people need to know that. Like, for a lot of addicts, at least for me, I was looking to connect. That drove a lot of my addiction, was wanting to feel part of and connect. And that's what it kind of turned into. I'm like telling all my buddies, yo, you got to try these things. And I remember we'd like do them and like sit at my house after school and just have like deep conversations. It wasn't like party shit. It was just like, oh, my brother, dude, we're connecting. And of course, I'm a salesman, right? So I'm like, everyone, you got to try these. Of course, half my friends are getting sick and they're like, I don't ever want to touch that again. And then half of us basically started our journey, which thank God some of us made it out now to this day. Some didn't. But it was prevalent. It was everywhere. And that's why I got introduced to it. And then, that chick friend of mine, her boyfriend became my first real drug dealer. So that's my senior year of high school. And I'm going into my freshman year at UCF in Orlando, and I had a girlfriend still in Sarasota. So I would pretty much like summer semester, I was at school like Monday to Thursday, and then I'd drive back to Sarasota with the excuse of seeing my girlfriend, but really to go cop.
Re-up.
Yeah. And I remember realizing I was having physical withdrawals just like with a Google search. Just in my dorm room, like, you know, oh, this is why I feel like shit. It's because I'm having opioid withdrawals. And that was a weird realization. Because to that point in my life, you know, alcoholics, drug addicts, like that's the homeless dude under the bridge, right? It just never crossed my mind. And I thought, you know, fuck yeah, I'm going to college. I'm about to live my Animal House dream. And, you know, all Van Wilder. I'm like, I got these movies in my head of what I'm about to go do. And the reality is it got bad pretty quick. You know, that summer semester was okay, but I was really back and forth from Orlando to Sarasota. Then fall rolls around. I start pledging a fraternity. And even then, like, I'm not part of, right? I'm this kind of outlying, no one understands me. And even that, like, it was a weird mix. I didn't want to go drink and party. I was this recluse snorting pills. And that was the first time some friends probably were like, you know, something's changed, something's different. And I remember me and a friend having both pills, and I ran out and basically being like, yo, dude, you got to give me some. And I remember the way he like looked at me was like, what's up? Like, you got a problem. Like, this is weird. But I would say the climax of that semester was I had a friend of mine get killed crossing like a main road on an Alafed trail in Orlando, walking back from the bars. He's drunk, trips crossing a median, gets hit by cars, dies. And that was like the first real close death I've had in my life. And he was with probably my oldest and best friend, my ex-friend when we were growing up. He was with him. So he calls me immediately crying. Meanwhile, I'd spoken to them 5 minutes before. I'm dope sick. I'm going to a house party, basically to go drink to feel better. And I remember having a lot of guilt that I didn't offer to give him a ride home or whatever. But also, like, you know, my best friend's calling me like, yo, Austin just got killed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? It was just this weird, crazy shit, right? That completely rocked me. And then like the next week, my uncle drops dead. My dad had a twin brother, drops dead from a heart attack jogging at 52. He still lived in Denmark with my cousins, and I was pretty tight with my uncle. He was kind of like, when shit was bad, he was calling me. Like, he was the cool, you know. And then a week later, my high school crew coach, I was on the rowing team, he dies in a car accident. And he was like 28.
Holy shit.
So it was like back to back, just rocked my world, mixing, you know, at this point, I'm heavily addicted to opioids. I was probably doing 120 milligrams of oxys a day, you know, oxy 80s and 30s. And so the depression from that is creeping in there so we go over to Europe. This is where my addiction became kind of the first time public, was we go to Europe.
What year is this that you go to Europe?
This is 2007.
Okay.
So graduated high school 2007. I'm in fall 2007 of my freshman year at UCF.
All those deaths happen.
All those deaths happened that fall. We fly to Denmark, and I remember being late the morning of the flight, international flight. My whole family's going, right? I'm late because I'm like, I got to go say bye to my girlfriend. I'm at the community college meeting my drug dealer, picking up a bunch of Roxys to fly over to Europe with, right? And I'm putting them in like an Eclipse mint tin to go through TSA. I'm railing them on the plane, you know, and I'm nodding out, you know, on the fucking flight, where that point my family's like, something's off, right? And I'm blaming it on grief and you don't understand and all this stuff, right? Because it was a lot of stuff for sure. But then, of course, you know, we're in Denmark and I run out of pills. So I get dope sick pretty quickly, right? The party ends and I'm like trying to drink, and my cousins are grieving, you know, they're same age really. And then, you know, we're smoking weed and hash, but I'm like literally walking around with a hoodie up and just like full on dope sick, the flu symptoms, right? Puking, shitting, and I'm blaming it on anything I can. And obviously, opioids aren't really a thing in Europe, right? They're like, oh, you have pain, go get acupuncture and physical therapy. Not, hey, here's a script for pharmaceutical grade heroin. My uncle's a pain doctor in Sweden. So even then, my family knew something was weird, but we come back and I don't even know how it came out. I can't remember, but essentially they pull me from school and I go to my first treatment in Virginia, which is, and I think my girlfriend was part of it. I had a friend they knew something was up. And I go to one of these like wilderness programs in Virginia. It's like, go hike the Appalachian Trail for 13 days. And like,
Yeah.
you know, no 12 step related, just we recommend you don't use for a year. And I was like, I'll do 6 months. And, cool hiking experience, right? And at that time I detoxed at my family's house, it was rough, but made it through. Come back from that, a month later, damn back, listen to voicemails. Hey, I got a new connect. Literally right back into it, shaving down Oxy 80s, licking the green, time release off. Same girlfriend. And she was a very smart girl. We're still friends to this day. And she was like, yo, what the fuck's up? I'm going to community college now in Sarasota. So then I tried going on Suboxone, right? That's the new kind of thing back then. I go to some bougie doctor on St. Armand's Key, like some rich cash pay guy that basically I'm like, oh yeah, I need Adderall. And also, by the way, doc. So it gives me Adderall, Suboxone. But at this point, I'm used to crushing up and snorting pills, 5 times a day, right? So they give me Suboxone. Well, now I started doing Xanax, and I'm snorting Xanax just because I'm like in that ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends up leading to, I'm at community college. I'm taking somas. I'm eating Xanax. I'm on Suboxone. Then I'm smoking weed. Next, I'm like crashing my car in the parking lot. And I don't know if you'd call it an overdose, but essentially like I'm with some other kids getting high and my girlfriend shows up, calls my family, and she's like, Chris is he's out of it. They take me to the hospital. This is around December 2007. They marchman me. So now I'm, in a county detox in Sarasota, sharing a fucking room with homeless guy with bleeding out of his head, busted face, in an observation room, glass and cameras and harsh reality, right? Where I'm like, they got the jail guys there, right, coming for detox. And so that was, I would say, like my first institution, right? And it was gnarly, like uncomfortable. Girls are coming off of methadone, crawling on the floor. Like it was like a really ugly environment. And so then that leads to my next treatment. And I went up to Hazelden Youth Center up in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a great program.
Bougie.
Yeah, it's a great
Nice,
program.
Great program. And that was good, right? Like I was never opposed to treatment. Like I knew I needed help. The depression was a real thing, like the drug depression. And I was always down to like go, right? I wasn't like some combative kid. Like I always knew I needed help. I just, didn't know how to go about it. I was always a good patient in rehab.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And then I was a good, once I felt I was feeling good, I was a good hype man to everybody else, right? I'm like, yeah, we could do this, guys. And like, put me the gold star. Like I'm a good fucking group leader here.
Yeah, you would get president of the rehabs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go through that program, right? It's fine. And they essentially send me down here to Palm Beach. So I go into a sober living Sunset House off North Lake. And, that was, I would say, kind of a wake-up call in a way too, right? I was 18. I'm now living in these duplex old-ass apartments, like fucking, sharing a fucking 2-bedroom with 4 guys. And my ex-roommate was a male porn star, ex-male porn star, crackhead. And then it's like just every walk of life, right?
Yep,
you got from Main Street to Wall Street, like every dude. And looking back, it was some of my most fun memories of my life, right? It was like summer camp, but just a bunch of crazy people, all ages, but for the most part, good dudes. And it's funny, just I'm like, most of my friends were in college, doing the frat thing, and I'm in a fucking sober living with a bunch of addicts, trying to figure life out. And I ended up working at Nordstrom and got a good job there, selling clothes. And this is like Ed Hardy days, And so it was good commissions. And, but I could never hold a job. I still was like a shitty, I didn't have responsibility still. I was still, and I was fucking off. Like I relapsed. I found a Suboxone in my car, took that, tried to hide that for a while and kind of, bounced around. I'm going down to the Kava bars, drinking kratom, and down in Boynton and downtown West Palm. I'm working at a hookah bar. And that's when Spice and K2 and Mr. Nice Guy started popping up right there. Not for human consumption, herbal incense. And, me and guys were like literally just rolling blunts of this shit, smoking it. Like it started as like, oh, we just do it at the hookah bar and it's like an herbal like supplement. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, dude, now we're buying bags of this and rolling blunts with it. Like the behaviors, right? We're the
but it's
addict,
not weed. But it's not weed.
Right. The addict
we're
justification mind is crazy.
It's crazy.
What we justify, right?
Yep.
And it's legal. So, but that I actually got really hooked on that stuff. Like, I mean, it was I fought that for a couple of years really, but the halfway house was like, yo, dude, because they couldn't catch me on a drug test because I wasn't popping positive, right? Even with the kratom back then, it was kind of a new thing. And they would talk about it and be like, yo, you shouldn't be doing this. But you also had a lot of guys in the recovery community that owned these places. Like the guy that owned the hookah bar selling this shit was like 10 years sober. And he actually did a Netflix documentary called Not for Human Consumption. Not a documentary, but a film. So, and he was like making this shit by the pound in his garage. He had his mom and his sister spraying all these herbs and selling it. And then he became a distributor. It was like he was making money. So I was like, well, it looks good to me. And, I was trying to kind of make some money, whatever. But needless to say, I ended up going to another rehab called Hanley in Vero Beach.
I know Hanley, yeah.
And
another great program.
Well, not the Hanley Center down here. It was like some other, it's called Hanley Hall. It
was
okay.
I
don't know if they're still open, but, and I think like, I'm like, I'm not even really getting high. Like, what do you mean? And the halfway house, like, the deal. It's like, nope, you got to go back to detox and rehab. And
the shuffle.
Yeah, the shuffle, right? And I had good insurance. So, and I was like, fine, whatever. All right, I'll go do another 30 days. Decent program, whatever, right? Did my deal. Back to the halfway house. And then I don't know how to know, but I got back into Roxy's again. I think it was this kid from Jersey, maybe I was real tight with that kind of like, he got a dope apartment. His family was kind of enabling. He had a lot of nice shit, money. And next thing you know, I'm railing Oxys again. And then that led to really shooting dope in Roxy's. Like I remember I started rocking with this one dude and he's dead now. They found him stabbed in a dumpster in Miami. This kid that I was real tight with. And I was kind of crashing at his apartment where it's like no furniture, right? Down in Lake Worth, like not a great neighborhood. We're just crashed on air mattresses. And I was kind of, at this point, like I'd moved out of the halfway house. I'm living with my sister and she's doing her thing, but she kind of could tell something was going on. But essentially I remember being dope sick again. And this kid's like, oh, well, I don't snort them. Like, I bang them. And I'm like, fuck it. All right. And that was the first time, I shot up. And of course, I liked it, right? It felt good. It was similar feeling, right? But at that point, you're doing anything to not be sick, right? You're just like, whatever I need to do to not feel like this, do it. So that led to then, we're cruising out into Hollywood and we're picking up fucking heroin from some other dudes. And it was really quickly going down a very dark road that I for sure never would have thought I'd be down. Definitely never thought I'd be shooting anything in my life. And very quickly, thank God my sister was like, yo, something's off. I got fired from my job. Nordstrom rehired me. Well, Now they fired me again. I'm missing therapy appointments. Like I'm looking like shit, right? I'm chain smoking cigs. I'm nodding out with burn marks all over my clothes. It was disgusting. And thank God, you know, she called my family. My parents come in and save the day again. And I go to a detox over in Sarasota, more of a medically assisted detox. And I end up going up to Arkansas to this program called Capstone, which is a phenomenal program. It's an ex-NFL player that runs it. A little bit more faith-based, but you get a dog. Like I got a Labrador puppy. So
That's awesome.
It's all dudes. You're basically in a cabin in the woods at this, you know, property out in the woods, and every dude gets a puppy. So, and they're like, you know, I remember like checking in. I'm like, I'm gonna go smoke one more cigarette. And they're like, no, there's no tobacco allowed on campus. And I'm like, fuck you mean? Like, what are you talking about?
Can't tell me.
Yeah. And I threw a fit, right? And they're like, we don't care. Like, you're checked in now, bro. And this was, I think, like they took like age 15 to like 25. But like real salt of the earth, good people in Arkansas. And like all the dudes are wearing like, you know, camo and shit working there. But I was there for 3 months. So that was the longest program I was in. You know, I was still kind of detoxing, getting there. Literally in a bunk bed in a fucking cabin in the woods. And I remember it being pretty uncomfortable for quite a bit. They tapered you off the nicotine, you know, and you're going caving and kayaking and a lot of groups. And, you know, there's a lot of solitude. And then you're learning responsibility, kind of taking care of his puppy. And so good program, not real 12-step heavy. There was a little bit of that in there. But again, I was like, you know, doing my thing. You know, that they did do a lot with the family stuff. They had a lot of family group stuff. So my parents came up, I think, for like a week and met some guys that I'm still tight with to this day. You know, you spend 3 months in the woods with some dudes, like you get
close,
you
man.
get close. Yeah. And a lot of those dudes, thank God, are still sober. A lot of them in the treatment business to some degree. Right. So go back to Sarasota after that, live with my folks, back in community college. And I ended up working at this restaurant that was owned by a youth pastor that he was kind of trying to do like a restaurant / hangout for the youth. So it's like they'd have like brunch on Sundays with church. And then the next night would be like literally like a Christian metal band. Like it was like so polar opposites. But you know, I'm working as expo in the kitchen. I'm still like just chain smoking cigs. I was sober, but you know, still not doing the deal, still just kind of fighting it, right?
Fighting demons on your own.
Fighting demons and not even knowing why, right? It's like, what are you running back to? That life? You know, I knew I didn't want to go back to opioids for sure. Like that scared me. But I still, with the alcohol part, and again, I still wanted to be part of. I still felt like at this point, I'm thinking I'm 21. Most of my boys are in college. Haven't had a real good girl in my life. You know, I feel like a fucking loser. Like up to that point, good student, likable dude, pretty popular. I had what seemed like the world ahead of me. And then now fast forward 3-4 years and it's been treatment after treatment after treatment. And I don't know if it's not everyone else's judgment. It's our own shame and guilt at that point. And I think that happens to a lot of addicts is it's like, the world's not pointing at you and calling you a fucking loser. It's more your own shit. And so, you know, I kind of did that deal. But of course, when you're working at kind of a charity case restaurant and they're trying to hire other guys in a bad spot, you kind of get plugged in with some other bad dudes too after a while. And you all start getting high together again. Still smoking the synthetic weed, justifying it. And still trying to do the community college. I was always real adamant on staying in school, taking classes. Because I always was like, I need an education. And because I also saw like, well, these are the jobs you get when you don't have a fucking education. It's pretty limited on what you can do unless you want to do manual labor. So, of course, I get wrapped back into the drugs, back into the drinking, the drugs. The pills start to creep back in, of course. And this all essentially leads to even a little bit of the cocaine. And that wasn't even something I really liked. It was just I'd missed that train. Like my college buddies had kind of got into it. And then I was like, I was late to the party and I was like, well, I want to try that. Right.
You were an opiate guy. Yeah.
I was still wanting to be living this fantasy in my mind. Right. I wanted to be out at the club and dancing and just like partying with everyone like I used to. And luckily my close friends, like I remember one of them walking up to me when we were camping and like taking a beer out of my hand and smashing it in the fire. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Because they were like, dude, this isn't working for you, right? And I was still like trying to go back to the old days, right? Where we're all together and we're having fun. And the bottom line is like, I'd crossed that line. And I was too busy trying to take other people's inventory and comparing myself and wanting to relive these old memories where they were like, dude, we're not living that anymore. This isn't fun anymore. And because they knew my family too, were my sisters, and they were like, bro, we're tired of seeing the wreckage of this. And it was very selfish on my part, right? I was still chasing that feel good for me instead of doing the right shit to actually feel good. So I, of course, end up back in the drug shit, right? You get typed right back in. Next thing you know, I'm getting caught up in a cocaine bust. So I'm, kid from my high school calls me basically, hey man, my cousin's coming in town and needs some blow for spring break. Like, can you hook him up? And I was like, I mean, I know people. So essentially I facilitate a drug deal, but I'm the driver for the deal. And that whole morning going to that, my gut is like, nah.
This ain't right.
Yeah. That was where I learned, looking back, my intuition is real. Your fucking gut knows. The second brain, right? So I had a bad feeling about it, but at this point, I'm living in my car. My family kicked me out. I was still going to community college, still working at this restaurant, but I was kind of out running again, going, more the drinking and stuff and a little bit of coke, but still not really the opioids because that was like, no, like I knew the physical addiction side. It's just, you're fucked. Once that starts, it's done. And again, so I'm basically living in my car, parking in front of my buddy's house every night, got a suitcase in my trunk, and bouncing around.
So you got to do this deal.
Yeah, right.
Got to do it.
I got to do it to make some money. And so set it up. We drive down. Dude hops in the car, which first red flag's like, well, my homeboy that called me is black. The guy getting in my car that's supposed to be his cousin's white. Right? So I'm like, so, unless this is like, your step cousin, right? Or some shit, like this just doesn't match. So we do the deal, he sells him like, I don't know, 8 ball, nothing, not some huge quantity.
Yeah.
And I remember the kid was smart. He goes, hey, I sell weed too. Like, here, try this. Like, you might want to pick some of this up. He goes, like, oh, no. Which I'm thinking, man, most guys selling drugs will like hit a little bit of weed, at least to like try it, especially if they're selling stuff. Nah, I'm good. So and this is at a gas station, pick him up. We spin the block, do the deal, drop him off. We bounce. And immediately I look at the kid and I was like, I think that was a cop. And he's like, I called the guy that set it up, right? And I go, yo, bro, is that a fucking cop? No, man. Like, it's all good. Like, don't worry about it. And so it's like, all right, I guess, whatever you say. Try to block that out. Go about my life, still living in my car, basically drinking. Got a buddy of mine, like, literally, like, giving me cigarettes every day. Like, I'm driving him to school. He's sharing his cigarettes. Like, I'm like, I have nothing. I'm a fucking loser. Thinking going to school, like, cancels all this other shit out. Right?
It's not purpose.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm like pulling like new shirts that haven't been washed to put on in the parking lot of school to like go walk in. You smell like Marlboro menthols and shit. Not even Marlboros at that time. I'm smoking like 305s. And sure enough, like 2-3 weeks later, the drug dealer guy calls me. He's like, hey man, I've been like basically selling to this guy, and now it's been like ounces, like more quantity. They're building a case on him, right? So he's like, I went to do another deal the other day, and I walked by in the parking lot, and there's a van, and it's filled with SWAT guys. So he knew it was a setup. So he took off, basically tells me, well, I think the next night I get a call from my mom and dad. Hey, there's 3 sheriffs here with the warrant for your arrest for, sale of cocaine to an undercover police officer. And of course, one of these sheriffs is a kid I used to like sleep at his house, like slumber parties. His dad was a big narcotics officer who sadly died from a brain tumor, but he was like the high school quarterback, became police officer, and literally like he was one of my homies in middle school. And that it wasn't a bad thing because I think there was probably comfort in knowing him to a degree. So of course I'm like, what am I gonna do? Run? I had like $25 to my name. Like my biggest thing was like, fuck, I just re-upped on a bunch of the herbal incense, bro. Like, fuck. What am I gonna do with all this weed, basically? So I go back to my parents' house, turn myself in, and my buddy's like, yo, dude, I'm not gonna handcuff you in front of your mom and dad. Like, just be cool. But he was like, yo, take your belt off, like leave anything valuable. Like he was like,
trying to help you
he
out.
was trying to help me in hindsight, right? I was like, kind of like, but he was cool. And then we get in the cop car. Of course, he guys, like, I gotta handcuff you, bro. It's protocol. And that was another moment where he's like, get in the car and the door shuts, and he's like, Chris, what the fuck, bro? Like, what are you doing hanging out with these fucking kids? I picked up this kid last night who was another drug dealer that I had robbed like 2 days before that I don't even remember robbing him because I was so fucked up on Xanax. And this is when Opana started to came out, which was what oxy and morphine, I think, blend. So I was like starting to kind of dabble back in the opioids and whatever. But anyway, I basically in a blackout, a Xanax blackout, like robbed this guy, right? And I remember having a voicemail from him, basically like, yo,
I'm gonna kill you.
yeah, I'm gonna fucking get you. Well, he's like, yo, what are you doing rocking with these kids? I picked this kid up last night. He kicked the fucking back windshield of my cruiser out, like in a frenzy, right? Some drug-induced craze. So anyways, they take me downtown, book me. He gives me his little like pep talk, right? And I just like, whatever, right? Because on the way to turn myself in, I called one of my uncles who's an attorney, and it was like, he basically's like, just shut your fucking mouth. Go turn yourself in, shut your fucking mouth. So, get to county, sit in holding, take me to first appearance, get a lawyer, right? Like my family did do that. I didn't have a public defender, I had a lawyer. And then they moved me to population. Of course, dude, I'm like 5'5", 120 pounds, soaking wet, like dope sick, coming off of coke and alcohol. But I was like scared, bro. Of course. I'm like, this isn't my fucking world, dude. And so, luckily, when they moved me to general population, I was in holding with this huge fucking black dude who was like a teddy bear, right? The guy was a mechanic at Walmart and had got picked up on driving. I was suspended on his day when he's paying his final fine.
Yeah.
So of course they're like, you get your little fucking bag and they're like, go find a cell. Welcome, like open the door. Here's the two deck, cell block. And it's overcrowded, of course. So I just put my shit in some random cell and it's like, of course, the homeless guys. And he's like, yo, Chris, like, come up here, like, you're good with us. So me and then like this scrawny black dude that looked like Wiz Khalifa from Chicago that got picked up for like door-to-door sales and got in a fight with some homeowner, like just dumb shit. And I was in there for maybe like 5 days, and then I got bailed out to immediately go to a treatment, right? So my lawyer's like, hey, he's not a drug dealer, he's a drug user. Like clearly they had built a case on this other kid. I was kind of just part of it. And in hindsight, I found out the guy who had set up the deal was an informant. He was just setting anybody up he could, where like there was girls I knew he was setting up like that were buying like 3 Xanax bars. Like he was just doing whatever he could to whatever he got caught up in, I think was like more trafficking. And I'm thinking like, bro, is this the war on drugs? Like you're locking up people that really need treatment, not, they're not actual criminals. But I will say that short time in county, I realized 90% of people are locked up because of drugs and alcohol. Whether it's domestic violence because you got in a fight with your wife and you're drunk, or you're robbing and stealing to get dope money, or you're pawning shit. It was like very clear to me. And it was also very clear, like, this is not my people either, bro. Like, I'm not built for this fucking life. Like, I'm not a street dude. So I was like, never again. I'm not going back to this shit. And I remember I got fucking bailed out, walked across the street to like CVS, got like a pack of cigarettes and a fucking Mountain Dew and payphone, called my parents, I think. And then I had like 12 hours to report to the residential treatment, which was called First Step, is in Sarasota. It's a county-run facility that's got, dual diagnosis. They got people coming out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
They got mental health shit. It's like everything, right? And there were some real characters in there. You got some really weirdo shit in there. But regardless, it got me sober. And then I had 2 years of felony probation, the curfew. So I had a 10 o'clock curfew. PO could show up whenever they want. I had to have a job, obviously, 100 community service hours. And luckily they did a withheld adjudication pending completion of that. So actually, and I'm not one of these guys that was like trying to work the system. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to smoke some weed and go violate and immediately get locked up in jail. That always blew my mind, where it's like people violate, and if people don't understand this, like you pop one dirty test, you're immediately getting handcuffed and getting put in jail. Like that was like, I'm good. Like I'll go to AA, whatever I need to do, I'm doing, right?
I ain't going back.
Right. Like it was very black and white to me. Just like, okay, if that's what goes for that, I'm not doing that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard enough. I'd been in and out of 12-step programs to realize like jails, institutions, and death. That's where this leads. I'm like, all right, dude, like now we've checked out another box, right? Now the jail box has been checked. I've been in 4 institutions at that point.
Check.
Jails here, right? Where it's like,
death.
Yeah. And there was definitely those kind of like that overdose or whatever I'd had with the somas and the Xanax, where like there'd been enough kind of scares where I'm like, and at this point I'd had friends pass, right? I knew people that died. I mean, back in those days, you had people dropping left and right from Oxycontin in Florida, especially. So I did the probation deal. I couldn't get a job, so luckily I was delivering furniture for my parents, right? Riding a delivery truck, fucking delivering furniture, and I got into the 12-step meetings, and I ended up getting a job finally working as a cabana boy on Ski Beach with some guys from AA.
Cabana boy.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, like this sounds cool, right? So it's all right. Like it's cool like when I was like 22, 23. Like now I'd be like, I don't know if it's so cool now. But it was but looking back, I'm like, dude, early wake up, right? Like the foundations of what we talk about now. The structure, right? I had to be up early. I got my feet in the sand. I'm grounding, right? I'm getting that sunrise on the beach. I'm getting physical activity.
Tan.
It was these big tan, right?
Yeah. It all.
Yeah. It was therapeutic, right? It was there were these double wide wooden cabanas that I was hauling out at like 10 different resorts. They had contracts. So, I'm just ripping my cigs, my board shorts, putting these things out, mingling with nice tourists from Indiana, right? And it really built a foundation for me that pushed me into sales. I had a lot of these old guys that would be like, hey, kid, like, thanks for the cabana. Here's 20. Like, you're good at talking. Like, you should be in sales. Mm-hmm. It planted a seed in me. And then I also worked with some guys that I'm like, all right, this is the path. If you don't go to school, you're doing this shit the rest of your life. So it really led to my first entrepreneurial journey. Was I met these guys from Miami that would come over with their families for vacation, because they're like, dude, we can't take our kids out on South Beach and like have a condo. It's just not that vibe. So they would come to Sarasota and ski. And they basically approached me one day, just like, hey, we got these tents. Like, can we pay to put these tents up and like bring our coolers out and shit? And I was like, yeah. So I got plugged in with all the Cubans, dude. All the Miami Cubans that were coming over, lawyers, doctors, med device guys. They paid me $20 to put up a little pop-up tailgate tent. I charged them 10 for a cooler with ice. But it got to the point, they're like, yo, we'll be there in 20 minutes at the condo. Can you come meet me and help me unload? Because they got like a wife and little kids. So they're like, yo, can you help me get my luggage up? Can you put the beach toys out for my kids? Like, I was like their guy, right? Mm-hmm. And still, I will say, like, there were still a couple times like, yo, can you get me a bag? These guys like to party a little bit. So there was a couple times I danced the line again where I was like, nah. Like, I even told them like, hey guys, like, I'm happy to help what I can, but like I've been down this road and I just can't kind of dabble in that.
Yeah.
Here's a phone number. Because the entrepreneurial side of me wanted to still be like, oh, well, here's another service added. Let me take a little profit off of here. But,
Mhm.
but anyways, that was, I ended up doing really well. I was making like $2,000, $3,000 a week cash, just putting shit out for these guys.
Mhm.
And, inevitably, you know, that all worked out. Finally, I get my associate's degree and decide, all right, I'm going to go back to school and go finish my 4-year degree. So I end up going back to UCF. This is like, I don't know, 2012 probably. I'm like 22, 23, like 2 years sober, you know.
2 years completely sober.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I got a little bit of time. I was doing
Yeah.
the deal, right? I was valeting cars too. So I'm doing the Cabana Boy stuff. I'm valeting cars at, you know, Fleming's and
Mhm.
Roy's Hawaiian Fusion. And even then it's like, you know, I'm starting to read, you know, more intellectual stuff while I'm valeting cars. I kicked the cigarette habit that I'd picked up in treatment, right? Go back to chewing tobacco. But I'm starting to feel like I'm getting healthier. So it was like, all right, let's go back to 4-year. I remember people like, oh, if you go back to school, you're gonna get fucked up and whatever. I was like, I'm gonna stay here and valet cars the rest of my life. Come on, dude. Like, I gotta do something.
Mhm.
So end up going back to Orlando, basically for my final 2 years of school. And it's going fine. I will say I was still kind of like feeling not a part of, because at this point I'm the older guy, right? I'm not in a frat. I that one fraternity I never became a full member of, right? So because I'd left mid-semester. So now I'm back. All my friends are graduated my age. So I'm kind of still like trying to find my place. I'm living with the kid whose sister I had dated, who was a partier. And that was not a great influence for me to be around. And then, of course, I basically like end up dating some girl that likes to get fucked up, right? She's like the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. So she's my medicine now, right? She's gonna fix me. Smart, whatever, but love to party. And of course, that led to me like smoking some weed again. And I remember like I used to think it was okay if she would smoke and blow it in my mouth. Like that was my cheat code. And looking back, it's like, the fuck you thinking, bro? Like how like you're French inhaling, so it's like not a real relapse or whatever. At this point, I'm not working any program. I'm kind of just back in school, figuring out, right? I joined a business fraternity that was a co-ed kind of business fraternity. And you know, so I again kind of got off the rails a little bit, but not too hard. You know, it was again the drinking kind of started, the kratom got kind of introduced at this point a little bit more where you know, I'm taking like 15 capsules. And that was again where I caught myself, right? So I'm going through a detox from kratom for a week or two.
What was that like?
Just like dope sick, being opioids. To me, it's the same shit. You know, people want to argue all day. If it's hitting your opioid receptors, and to me, okay, maybe it wasn't as harsh as oxys, right?
Mhm.
But it was,
It's an opioid.
yeah. I mean, and I probably also caught it earlier and it didn't build as quick, but it was the same feelings. I couldn't sleep, restless legs, I'm feeling sick, I'm depressed. And again, it brought me to a place where I'm like, I do not want to go down this road again because I know where this goes. And I've worked too hard too.
Mhm.
And luckily that girl, you know, we were clashing, right? And I just kind of was like, I need to get right. And I think I had a couple friends even that I kind of had talked to and they kind of steered me. And I started going back to AA in Orlando. So I kind of self-corrected. I didn't have any intervention, nothing like that. I really kind of self-corrected myself. And you know, there was of course some drama. Like I think I'd come home for winter break and I remember I got real fucked up. I was supposed to say bye to my sister, and the next thing I'm waking up at an ex-girlfriend's house, like completely blacked out, not knowing how I got to her house. So it was like I was going off the rails again, and I was like, all right. So a little family conversation, but I had a good shit going for me, right?
Mhm.
So I self-corrected, had some good roommates, good people I was living with at this point in Orlando. And I tightened up and I got into this sales program at UCF. I applied, and actually it was the ex-girlfriend that was a little not a good influence on me. She's the one that also was like, hey, like I was in finance and she's like, you fucking hate this and you're not that good at it. So she's like, the sales program, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, sales, like used car sales guys.
Yeah, of course.
I was just judging it, right? Which, dude, sales make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
In most organizations. You can attest to that. So, so I applied, and they take like, 30 students out of 10,000 in the business school. They interview you, and it's sponsored by Google and Wells Fargo and Tom James, any company that needs salespeople, medical, finance, clothing. So, I kind of threw myself into that. And even that, I remember asking the professor, like, he's like, oh, you'll probably be a manager at this company. And I was like, what do you think I'll do? He's like, Chris, I don't know. You'll probably do your own thing. And I was like, I was kind of like, fuck does that mean, dude? Like, is that a compliment?
Yeah.
But that's where I got introduced to medical. And I knew I originally was pre-med, then went to finance, but I always had an interest in medical. I'd intern with surgeons. Something in it pulled me. My grandfather was a doctor, and but chemistry was alien words. I just didn't, my brain did not read that shit. So, and my dad, naturally, like, having his own business, is such a people person. He, like, sales in my blood. Same with my sisters, they're in pharma sales. So, ended up getting plugged in with Millennium Labs, or became Millennium Health. They were the largest toxicology lab in the country at that time. They're based out of San Diego. And I met one of the founders. He came to speak to our class, and I was like, yo, I like what this dude's saying. Dude's got a nice suit on, like, funny guy. Because I'd heard, like, the Cintas guys and Wells Fargo, and I was just like, Google obviously was cool, right? I'm like, oh, that's dope. But I also knew Google was really tough to get into, and tech was not my forte at all. Medical had that natural pull. So I'd intern with some device companies, J&J, Coloplast. Honestly, I went with the lab because I was interested in thinking I'd help people, right? In treatment, drug testing was a big part of their business. And this business really became a thing because of the opioid epidemic, where doctors now are realizing, oh shit, I need to cover my ass. If I'm writing these scripts for controlled substances, I need to make sure people are taking them. And that's what people understand about the lab business. It's not so much about catching people doing something wrong. It's making sure you're doing what's right and the doctor wants you to do.
Accountability.
Right, accountability. And like,
You're
if
not
I'm a
selling.
doctor and I'm giving you Adderall, for example, I want to make sure you're not doing cocaine at the frat house on the weekend too. Because if you do get in trouble or something happens, they're going to come talk to me. So that conversation, I mean, as opioids became a real problem, doctors knew people dying or crashing cars. And I had stories of physicians I worked with where, like, their son gets in a car crash and there's a script in the car with the doctor's name on it. And who do you think the cops are going to talk to? Hey, are you over-prescribing, whatever? And then naturally, you did have dirty doctors, right? These pill mills, right? That were just, and I walked in some of these places where I'm like, why does this pain clinic need an armed guard at the door? And why is there 6 lowriders in the parking lot with pit bull puppies? Why does this doctor's parking lot and office look like a trap house?
Yep.
And I obviously kind of knew because of my years in and out of rehab. I knew guys playing the MRI imaging game and like, yo, dude, for $200, I can get 300 Roxys and 150 Xanax. And I'd seen it. So, naturally, when I kind of connected with this guy and he found out my history, he's like, yo, dude, like, you should work at our lab. Like, you know a lot about pharmaceuticals. And originally, of course, he's like, how do you know so much? And I was like, well, I'm sober because I was hooked on this shit. And he's like, that's awesome, bro. Congratulations. Like, you're going to do great in new hire. So I was like, it was the first time I kind of felt like I'd seen God working in my life, putting me in a position that for years I'm like, why am I going through this? Why me? Like, why,
You saw the clear path.
Yeah. I saw finally a benefit to all the shit where I was like, oh, this is an asset to me now. Like, I could be good at something because of my experience. It wasn't all bad. Because at that age, you're not like, oh, I'm more wise or anything like that. You're just like, woe is me. Like, I'm behind. I was so comparison to all my friends that had their own apartments or their wives or whatever, where I'm like, I was 23, 24, the older guy. And even like in the business fraternity, I became the vice president. And I don't think I had a lot of fans, right? Like, and I don't think it's because I'm a dick. I just think I'm very nonchalant and kind of laid back, and people can interpret that the wrong way. And also, having gone through all the stuff I went through, it just, I don't want to say it just makes you less kind of like chippery, you know, you're just kind of more centered and grounded, where I'd seen through the matrix, if you will, where like the whole like, yeah, like, what do you want to do? I want to be a CEO. It's like, of what? The fuck does that mean, dude? Like, you just want a title. Like, you could be the CEO of a toilet paper factory. Is that dope to you? You know, it's like, what do you want to do? So it was just a lot of theatrics and politics, even in that organization. I found that I was just like, and naturally being kind of a rebel, I'm just like, dude, like, I'm not about all this fake bullshit. And that transmitted into corporate America, even with corporate medical sales, where like these sales conferences of like, which, let's be real, most people are getting fucked up. It's like an orgy, to be honest with you. And I didn't like that either. I didn't like seeing people compromise their morals or cheat on their significant others and all that shit. Like, that's something that always has bothered me. And probably because I had a sister who got cheated on in her first marriage. So it was like kind of a sore spot for me. But regardless of all that, you know, I get a job at this lab. They offer me a great deal. They offer, hey, would you go to Texas? So I literally moved to Houston before I even walked to my graduation ceremony. They hooked me up. The guy was a mentor to me. You know, he had lived in Winter Park, took me to a sick fucking house. He's like, meet my wife, he's my kids. Let's go get Tijuana Flats and my 911 Turbo. And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to work for this guy. Like, this is cool. Like, no one from fucking, you know, Wells Fargo is doing this shit with me. Like, this guy's what I want to be living. I want what he has. And so they moved me to Texas, and that was where, you know, I got my kickoff. And at this point, I'm still sober, right? I'm probably, I don't know, a year sober now. Moved to Texas. Had never been there, moved blindly. But I was like, cool, no state income tax. Like, my grandfather lived in Houston, so I was like, there's some cool family ties here. Like, my grandfather, who was a consulate for the Danish government, he was helping do more Danish goods being traded in. So this is in like the 70s, you know, and I have these cool newspaper clippings of my grandmother and grandfather hosting dinner parties with all the Houston elites of just like, hey, here's Danish stuff. Like, we're a little country in Scandinavia. Like, here's some coffee and cigars, right? But I was like, even that, I'm like, there's something like, there's some higher power working here, right? And so I, you know, of course, I hit the ground running. I think I'm going to make all this fucking money, and then I'm going to be helping the world, right? I work with all these rehab centers, and I'll help people get off opioids and make sure they're compliant with their medications. And sadly, you realize medical business is a lot about money, right? It's not about healing people or curing people. It's just,
It's a business.
It's a business, right? And, you know, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow. And I think the world, I don't think, if I said this 10 years ago, it'd be harder to swallow. But I think post-COVID, it's, people have seen a lot more of it. And the insurance stuff where, you know, it's like you see people with cancer getting a drop from their insurance policies, and it's like, the fuck, you know? And I've seen it with specifically the rehab business, you know, where, because I own a lab now, right? Where I'll see claims get denied from a treatment center for a kid who's like 2 days sober from fucking fentanyl. And the insurance will be like, we need more medical necessity. Like, we need more chart notes. And I'm like, who on the planet more should get tested than this kid right now? Like, that seems pretty necessary to me. So I've seen that game, but Texas is really where I got introduced to it. And essentially Millennium, who I was working for, they were going through some legal stuff themselves. You know, they had a huge Medicare lawsuit, which, and I'm not ripping on them, because if you Google any major medical company lawsuit, Pfizer, Eli Lilly, there's going to be one. It's just the game. But they started cutting our commissions, and I was like, all right, you know, and the whole corporate game, I was like these ride-alongs with managers. And I mean, I have a corporation now, right? I have salespeople and directors and stuff. When we try to be more intimate, but there was just something about it. I'm like, it's a hustle, right? It was a hustle. And unfortunately, Texas is an extremely competitive state, and there was just other companies with better models. So I quickly pivoted, and I actually worked with a small boutique company for a couple of years with some guys until my partners and we purchased a lab at a bankruptcy auction in Orlando. So we bought our own lab in 2018. 2 other sales guys I work with. We basically stacked our money together, bid at an auction, won, and just fucking went for it. Because we kind of like, all right, we know we're limited here. This is what's going to happen. Or we can just go all in and go for it, right? So, and thankfully, we had a good amount of business because of my rehab connections, because I had built relationships
with every rehab
I went to. And of course, you know how it is. Like a lot of guys, they end up owning places or they're therapists at places. So I had a book of just buddies that I knew their darkest, most intimate secrets, that we were very close, that I was like, hey, dude, you guys probably use a lab, right? Yeah. Like, would you hear me out? Like, I'm in the game now. And they're like, yeah, dude, sure. So, that definitely helped us get a kind of a kickoff into it. And keep in mind, this time I'm still in Texas, but then, the sobriety goes out the window again because I get a little cocky, get a little bit of money, start making some money.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And some of it was, I didn't stay connected. I was a little bit in some of the 12-step stuff in Houston, but I never plugged in hard. And I actually met a friend of mine in the rooms who then we ended up going hard together, partied. He was in the medical business too. He kind of introduced me to going independent. But him and I, of course, eventually end up like drinking together. We're switching each other's, we're trading his Porsche and my Mercedes, and we're racing and we're fucked up and we're doing pills with doctors and sprinter vans, going to concerts and just back in it, right? Never quite as deep. And of course, money provides a little bit of a cushion there.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's when the marijuana came back in. This was like weed vape pens started coming a thing. And I was like, oh, this new technology is so interesting. Like, wow, you can just hit an oil pen like anywhere, And I remember even getting back into weed, like, I don't really like this. Like, what am I doing? But the drinking, it's like I would get a year, 2 years, and then go to a wedding in Cabo. And really it was like just a spontaneous decision, right?
Fuck it.
We're at the after party. There's a bucket of beers. It's a cute bridesmaid. All right, well, game on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then wake up the next day like, fuck. And then I kind of not do anything for a couple months. And then I'm in Colombia and I'm out dancing and fucking, then there's Coke. And then next, back in it, right? And I was always trying to fight it off. And inevitably, the windows would get shorter and shorter. And that's kind of what happened in Houston, right? The drinking started kind of coming back in. And at this point, the drugs aren't really there. It's more the booze. Because I haven't really went down that road alcoholically, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the pills, like, you'll be in treatment in 6 weeks. But, you can manage now, right? You're having dinner with these doctors at this steakhouse. You could have a drink here with them. This is entertainment. It'll be different, right? You weren't really a big drinker. And next thing you know, it's like, I'm hiding a bottle of vodka in my closet and, beers in the other closet because my girl knows my history. And thankfully, most girls I dated weren't partiers at that point. So when they would know my story. So then when they would kind of see that, they're like, yo, like, shouldn't you not be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when the hiding came in. But I'm thinking, I'm making fucking money.
How are you going to tell me what to do?
Right. I'm in a penthouse. I pay your rent, right? Like, I pay for everything. Everything on the outside looks good. Meanwhile, deep down, I'm fighting me. My family's not there, right? They don't really know. And I think, to be fair, some people are probably like, oh, well, maybe alcohol isn't a problem. Maybe you can. Meanwhile, I'm like taking Adderall to balance the alcohol, and just go to work. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, if I just take enough Adderall, then I can balance this. Like, I'm like everybody. I was always trying to be like everybody else. And my biology, my body chemistry, even to this day, I look at people, I'm like, how do you drink like that and function? Like some of my own family members. I'm like, also, like, what's the point of a half a glass of wine? You're going to leave the rest of your drink at the table. You paid for that. Like, you don't want to finish it, get your money's worth. Just makes no sense to me. So, inevitably, I kind of danced around, no liquor, just beer, right? And then, because even my girl at the time, she'd be like, I can tell when you're drinking vodka again. Like, I can tell the difference of you. And this point, it's like, the behaviors are getting a little more wild, right? And the progression. So let's see, COVID, about 2020, right? That's when the booze really kind of took off for me. While at the same time, my business is taking off.
That's bad.
So 2019, right, going into 2020, get rid of the girlfriend who's calling me out on my drinking, whose dad is 20 years sober. So she knows what she's seen real time.
She knows the signs.
She knows it. And, in this period, I'm still like, popping a pill here and there and just juggling, right? Trying to maintain everything. My partners are mostly in Florida because our main laboratory is based in Orlando. And I'm still in Houston, where we have business all over the country, right? So we started in Houston. So I'm still there. We're kind of one by one moving back. But I had the girlfriend there. So, they're like, whatever, dude, just keep bringing the business from there and doing your thing. So, move into a new building, freshly single again, thinking I'm the fucking man. And drinking just starts escalating, get plugged in with the girl there who likes to party. And she loves cocaine, which is not good because that starts getting introduced a little bit there too. But essentially it was COVID. COVID's coming and the lockdowns. And that's where it was like gasoline on the fire because I got nowhere to be now, right? And even culturally, I was in Texas, right? So it's still kind of open, but everyone there is still like, all right, we'll stay at home, but like, let's have a party tonight. Like, come over. So everyone in my building is basically like having get-togethers every night of the week. And then we lived at kind of like a park area. So there's a dog park and outdoor food. So it was very social. But, at this point, like, I have no one trying to check me, right? My ex isn't there to kind of balance the drinking, and she kept calling me out, so I just ran from her, got away. Because previous to that, I would try to, I'll just drink White Claws, right? That's when White Claws just come out in Truly and stuff. So drinking just started becoming more and more and more. Then I got this other girl in my life that she drinks kind of like I do, but then she's from basically Thursday till Monday, she's doing coke, not sleeping. Just by Monday night, she's fetal position in the shower, crying, coming down. I'm dabbling in that, still popping Adderall. At this point, I think I'm buying pressed Adderall pills off the street, like probably meth, right? Then I start WhatsApping guys buying what I think is hydro and oxycodone off of some guys in India, I think, where literally I'm getting letters from U.S. Customs and the postmaster, like, we seized a package addressed to you with benzodiazepines and opioids. Like, do you claim this is yours? Basically, like, if you're going to claim this is yours, you're fucked. Or you can just not claim it and, I don't know, not for me. Someone from India just keeps sending me pharmaceuticals, I guess, allegedly, right? So it's quickly picking up again, right? And looking back, even now, I'm like, where was my fucking head, bro? Like, I was in the darkness. This is where I believe that alcohol and the vibrational, like, you are lowering yourself to where there's call it spirits, whatever you want to call it, there's influences happening. And I've seen this, especially with the opioids, like the music produced when people are on opioids and the frequency. It's like, I wanted to be inside in darkness all the time. Like, shades drawn, where you're literally on a different wavelength than the rest of the world. And the drinking at that point was really, if I was awake, I was drinking. Like, it was like a liter of vodka every day, probably 24 White Claws or Trulies. And I'm basically just, if I wake up and there's, a vodka soda from the night before, first thing I'm doing is slamming it, getting up, vodka, Bloody Mary mix, wash it down. And it was the point now I'm having physical addiction to alcohol, which that was like, I'd heard about it for years in and out of program, in treatment. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, you're an alcoholic. This is, and not like that's worse than opioid addict or whatever you want to call it. But it was like, dude, like, you're fully, no matter what it is, you just have this thing. But it was getting very dark where it was like, my partners knew something's up. My behavior is getting more erratic again. The alcohol's not working anymore. And that was like one of the big, you hear it all the time, right? It stopped working. It fucking stopped working. Like, I could drink huge amounts and just the relief wasn't coming. Where I would wake up and not know if it's 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. Like, I don't know if the sun's setting or the sun's rising. It's like time's a blur. And that's where it was getting like dangerous. And I remember, and I didn't want to be living like this, right? At this point, like, this is where I was at a bottom where, I was praying every day, right? Like, I'd be on my knees at like, because really my schedule, like, I'd go to sleep at like 4 or 5 a.m. and sleep till 2 p.m. And I would try to not drink. And then, by 3 o'clock p.m., I'm drinking. And I couldn't even take a shower without having a drink. And I was shaking like crazy. But I remember praying like, God, and I think this is somewhere around when like Mac Miller died. And I remember that like impacted me because I just thought, like, man, like, that dude was a good dude. And that's really unfortunate. And I remember just having this like knowing of like, bro, that's you, dude. Like, you're going to die soon. Like, you've done all these other things and no one was really seeing it, right? At this point, I was really pushing everybody away. The people that were around me, like, there was definitely people around me that probably, I don't want to say didn't have my best interest, but like maybe didn't understand the
depths of what you had been through.
The depths of it.
Prior to.
Right. They didn't know my history.
Yeah.
I
kept those around.
Yeah.
I always kept them around on purpose. So no one would call me out or be like, I'm concerned about you.
Right.
And I would freak them out too.
And I had success. So I think people saw me like, oh, he could be an asset to me in some way or like put me on or whatever. Like, I was really good at maintaining that external. And of course, I still got the Rolexes. I got the cars. Like, so in their mind, they're just like, oh, he's like partying a lot, whatever. There may have been a couple people, because I was still kind of popping into doctor's offices, right? It's during COVID. So, I have a mask on. I'm dropping off COVID tests. It's very limited. But, I was like missing work calls and stuff. Like, it was bad. And it wasn't, the work was like a minuscule part. It was more like mentally, I was in such a dark, dark hole.
Mm.
And even when I think back at it, it doesn't even seem real to me. Like, it was like a whole different life. But essentially, that isolation, and unfortunately, drink problem or no drinking problem, I think that was a hard time for everybody, right? It was a fucking weird time in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the money was coming in, like business was booming, right? But the money wasn't necessarily coming in yet. But I was starting to get a little bit of cash coming in. We were still tight because we were a startup, really. Like, we were kind of a startup. COVID hit. So we were still, all cash was going to growing the business. We weren't taking anything out. But ultimately, it led to, police showing up at my door, right? Like, I definitely was like starting to have problems with my building, like being loud or the smell of weed smokes coming out. And I need to be cautious of how I say this, but essentially I had 4 HPD officers pound at my door at 4 a.m. and allegedly pull me out for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So I answer my door, boom, 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 like middle of the night, and open the door. It's 4 fucking HPD cops, got me at gunpoint, yelling at me to get on the ground. I got a gun on me. They bring me to the ground. I tell them, hey, there's a gun in my waistband, by the way. I'm like, it's fucking COVID. It's 4 a.m. Like, I don't know what you're doing. I said, what are you doing? Oh, well, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I said, all right, don't say a word. They take me to the police car. And I can't even describe my mindset at this time. Like, I definitely wasn't sober, right? But I had this calmness to me almost. But asked me a couple questions. You know, I'm there for about like 2 hours, and then they open the door, tell me I'm free to go, and they hand me back my pistol disassembled. And I remember like, yo, what the fuck just happened? Like it was called an aha moment, right? It was one of those like, your angels are here. So, and obviously, you know, nobody was hurt or anything like that. I was never convicted or tried or charged with anything. They detained me temporarily and asked me some questions, but essentially, you know, they let me go. And I remember walking in my building and one of my buddies was there and he's like, yo, what fucking just happened? And I was like, I don't know. And I remember walking in my apartment and just dropping on my knees and like thanking God. Cause I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And that was like where I'm like, dude, something's got to give because I can't live like this anymore. Right. So
Before you continue, what happened? Or can you not talk about it?
no, I mean, so from what I recall, I basically recall seeing like a crime in progress, right? And I'm walking my dog, and then like I pull my gun out, you know, essentially, and I'm arguing. Gun goes off. I drop the gun, and then I remember being in my apartment after that. So the building calls the next day and tells me, you know, we have you on surveillance. Basically, like, you know, I don't know what their exact words were, but we have surveillance tapes. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to talk to my lawyer. And basically also said I had to move out. And I said, that's no problem. Talk to my lawyer. I'll be out of here like in 20 hours. Like, I'm not arguing anything. Because I'd had problems with them, like, where I was like complaining on social media about them, right?
Oh, man.
So
they hated you.
yeah. Even when I moved out, I had to sign like an NDA basically.
Defamation, like don't ever
like,
talk about us.
Yes, exactly. So, and again, like that whole season of my life, my memory is fucked. Like the amount of alcohol I was ingesting was just crazy, right? And that's where I just know like I completely was not in my right mind. And that was like, pills were one thing, but like alcohol just pulled out a different fucking demon in me, dude. And I was never like that type of drinker. And again, I wasn't like actively trying to have problems with people, but I just remember there was something going on. I think the building too, we had like some issues with break-ins or something like that. So it wasn't like I was going out of my way to look for a problem, put it that way. Like I wasn't like, you know, just like beefing with somebody.
Right.
But essentially, you know, I called the guy that I had met in the AA program who I had partied with, but he'd like been, you know, in and out of problems with the law himself. And he was just like one of those like fucking clutch guys that, you know, when you're in some shit, he's like, here's the action plan. So we basically get on my shit, get movers, call my ex-girlfriend. My ex-girlfriend had come back in the picture like in the last 2 or 3 weeks because she was like, yo, like, because we'd got a dog together, right? I still have this dog, it's Chocolate Lab. I'd got him with her when he was a puppy. She still loved that dog dearly. So that kind of kept her worry for him kept her around me to a degree. And she like cared about me, obviously. Like I said, her father, she'd seen her dad go through it. So and that's why I think even I tell her and her sister, like, you guys are like my angels, because some other women would not have had that same empathy. So she had called my buddy. Well, he just got back from doing ayahuasca. This is the one I partied with, and he was sober, not sober. So he shows up fucking like in the middle of the night, like in his like new ayahuasca robe shit, right? The whole hippie dippy shit, right? Like the flowy cloak and the headband.
Floating on a cloud.
Yeah. And I'm like, before he's like Tom Ford, like S63, like Kevin Gates bumping, right? Where I'm like, yo, bro, like, what the fuck are you on, dude? Yeah. I'm just like, who are you? Like, what do you, but his vibe was different. Like, I could feel it. And And he just came in full of like love and embraced me like, dude, we're going to get you right. Of course, he's like, you should really do ayahuasca.
He's pitching the ayahuasca. Yeah.
And I'm like so far away from that point, right? I eventually did, but at that point, I'm just like, I got to deal with this right now, right? So I end up going to stay at his penthouse. We've got his lawyer constantly checking if there's warrants for me because I'm still freaked out with the legal stuff. My girl takes my dog, and they happen to live right across the street from each other, their buildings. So I'm in his penthouse looking at her in the dog park with my dog. And he's a friend, but like within 2 days, I'm shaking, I'm detoxing. He's supposed to be calling one of his doctors to help me. He's like, I'm on work calls, I'm busy. And I'm like, fucking, I couldn't even send a text message because I was so
Shaky.
fucked. Yeah. And I'd never been through this. So I luckily had relationships. So I called one of my doctors, one of my clients, whose son owned a rehab center. I was like, hey, doc, like, I'm going through it. And they knew me when I was sober before. So I was like, do you think you could help me? So she wrote me, you know, Klonidine in the scripts for what I needed.
And Klonidine helps, yeah.
And maybe some Ativan and just got me what I needed to get me right. And then I called my ex and I was like, yo, he's great, but like, I can't stay here. Like, he's fucking driving me nuts. So she's like, you can come stay with me and my sister. So I'm still freaked out because I have some kid basically tell me, oh, the police are looking for you. Well, this kid was basically trying to extort me. I found out later. His family was, his dad was a judge, but this kid I knew was going around extorting people under his family's name. There's a prison in Texas named after this kid and his family. So, and he didn't even really know what was going on. I just had said, hey, if my name comes up or can you look into this for me? Well, he took advantage of that and basically didn't know what was going on, but said, hey, they're looking for you, whatever, real dirtbag. So
that's fucked up shit.
It's fucked up. So I just was like, I'll just count what the lawyer says. If there's no warrants, fine. Ex-girl scoops me up, but I'm like moving like I'm hiding, right? So I'm like running out the back door of this building, throwing my shit in her car. She was holding it down. She was like, she was moving militant.
She was riding.
Yeah, she was riding. And I ended up, dude, basically her and her sister like fucking nursed me back to life. Like for the next, this is still lockdowns, but you know, I move into their 2-bedroom. She moves in one room with her sister because we're not together at this point. She lets me take her room, and basically the three of us live together. And to this day, like, you know, the boyfriend she was dating at the time, he was there and he was down to earth, really good Oklahoma boy, like youth pastor leader. He's actually in Miami for crypto stuff right now and reached out to me, but like we bonded. And he was also like, looking back at the people that God put in my life, he was such a positive, pure dude.
Wow.
So we had our little like clique in our family, and she had rescued another chocolate lab the first time we broke up. So we've got the dogs. We're all in probably this 700-800 square foot apartment, right? It's COVID lockdowns but they're like, come on, we're going to take the dogs on a walk. We're going to Trader Joe's. Like they were really getting me moving and kind of back to reality. I'm still smoking weed. I'm still drinking kratom. At this point, I'm drinking the kratom shots.
Yeah.
And they even were like, they didn't really have much to say about that because I wasn't doing any crazy shit, right? I was mostly just like literally laying on the couch all day watching the news because of the COVID shit and just sucked into that. And obviously my laboratory, there wasn't much to do but answer the phone. Do you do COVID testing? Yeah, we do. Okay, can we get some kits? It was, you're taking orders. Everybody needed it. So it's not like anyone was out selling. It was just, we were the third lab on the East Coast that had like every variant available. So we were quick and we were on it, but business was good still, right? So I wasn't really having to do much, which was a blessing to kind of healthy, you know, balance a little bit. Fast forward 6-7 months, you know, this is October, like 2021 or 2020, I think. I'm like, all right, I got to kick the kratom. Because at this point, kratom, I'm waking up in the middle of the night starting to get withdrawals, like drinking these shots of this, like 5-hour energy shots of kratom, basically. And that's where I'm like, this is no different than opioids. I'm waking up sick, not as sick, but,
yeah,
you know, knowing that this needs to be addressed. So I take it upon myself. I find a rapid detox out in Cali that basically, you know, I think they like put me under. It's called the Wiseman method.
Yeah, they push it through.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I'm like, I can't go through another hardcore detox. Coughed up the cash, flew out there, and no one was twisting my arm, right? I just kind of was like, dude, I've been down this road a million times. And this was like where I was like, I was making the choice, right? I tried every which way possible. I was ready to surrender, right? I was like, I'm done. Like, I've tried every loophole, kratom,
Mm-hmm.
legal weed, fucking whatever. And went out there, detox off the kratom, and then back to Houston, still with the girls. Decide, all right, it's time to get back to Florida, get back closer to my business, closer to my partners. But then I got in the weed business, right? I got in the Delta 8, the hemp. And I was still, dabbling in that, right? I'm like, oh, it's Delta 8, it's legal, and it's not real weed.
Mm-hmm.
And even in hindsight, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it served a purpose for a time. But I knew deep down, I'm like, you've been fully sober. So I wasn't going back to AA, nothing like that. But in like 2021, 2022, I think it was February 2022, I moved back to Florida, to Tampa. My family's in Sarasota, labs in Orlando. Tampa, I'm like, cool spot, the water. Let me plug in here. And I started manufacturing the gummies and everything down there and started a company called Vacay. And I'm like, all right, this is natural medicine. We can help people, blah, 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 blah. Just kind of like buying my own shit, right? And like, even to this day, I get in a lot of shit when I talk about weed, right? Like no one defends anything more than a pothead. Like they're like, it's natural and God gave it. It's like, God did not give us this fucking greenhouse fertilizer filled shit, right? Go to Jamaica and you buy the shit in a trash bag off the side of the road. It looks completely different than what we're growing and selling. But in that business, going to the conferences where I just was like, dude, I don't like this vibe. I don't like it, just felt gritty to me. I feel like I hate to say this, but I feel like you have a bunch of functioning addicts that are just getting by. And of course, in that business, the kratom is a big part of it, which is legal highs. And I'm like, seeing companies push this as like, this is safer than alcohol. And I'm like, nah, it's not. Like, I mean, I've had clients of mine, pain doctors, you put anyone on an opioid for 5 days in a row, they're going to be physically addicted to it to a degree. They're biologically, their body. They might not be true addicts, but it's still, you're dancing on the line there. So, but then also, in that business, a lot of regulation coming and going. And I'm like, dude, it's like starting a liquor company. Like, unless you got a ton of capital and people to get this thing out there, good luck. I know 20 guys that have tried to start liquor companies and failed. And same with cannabis. Cannabis is big tobacco, is big liquor now. So, I really didn't jump back in my full sobriety until, 10 and a half months ago, where, Tampa's great. Lab did great during COVID, made a lot of money, right? We scaled, we built a really good foundation. Not to say it's all perfect, right? We had some disputes along the way, and there's been challenges, of course. Reimbursements, right? The medical business is ever changing and stuff like that. But more for me, I was like, I need to do something else to fulfill me. I kind of just hit my cap of like, all right, this is great. I'm grateful for it. But I'm a creator. Like I'm an idea guy, right? What's next? What can I build? What's hot? I've always got my kind of ear out there of what's popping and what's coming next. So, and thankfully, like we grew to a point where like we have an executive team and CEO and CFO, and I don't have to be as hands-on. And I'm not the best sales guy. Like I have guys that work for me that are 10 times better than me and 10 times more organized. And I know enough to know like I'm not the shit. Like
That's what makes you a good businessman, though. That's what
maybe.
makes you a good president, founder, whatever you want to call yourself. That's what makes you good at what you do.
Yeah. And I've been humbled gravely, right? I've been beaten down and well, let me talk in the ayahuasca because that was a big part for me actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was
When did you do it?
so that same friend who showed up in the middle of the night in his
We remember him.
his cap and gown,
Yeah.
and his hacky sack. He got really into it, so he kept hosting like retreats, ayahuasca retreats and whatnot. And he'd be like, come on, man, like come out to Austin or Costa Rica or whatever. We're gonna have a ceremony. And I'd never done psychedelics in my life. And I was like, nah, dude, like it's not for me. You know, I'm not into this hippie shippy shit. Like it's not my vibe. But I'd done a lot of research on it because people were talking about it. Joe Rogan, you know, I'd watched a lot of documentaries, and I'm
It's
like,
a hot topic, yeah.
right. For a couple of years, I'd been kind of diving down the rabbit hole where I was like, all right, this is a thing, and definitely an addiction. It's a thing. But I'd seen people with cancer even go do it and have remission and stuff like that. And I just kept saying no. And then he basically one day was just like, hey, I'm putting together a retreat down in Costa Rica. I think this was in 2022. And it was just like an auto, like, yes, just came at me. Like, and people say that, like, you don't choose to do these things. They choose you. Like it's your time when it's your time. And that was for me. Like, I was so like, fuck no. And then this, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm down. And I didn't know what to expect, but I just committed, said, all right, I trust you. I'd seen the changes in him for the better. And I was curious. And again, I'd done a lot of research and there was a lot of data with the addiction and stuff. So I was like, all right, I wasn't looking for a quick fix by any means. At this point too, I hadn't drank or done any drugs really in 2 years. I'd smoking the weed vapes, not even flower weed, just weed vapes. So went down to Costa Rica, did the whole month diet, right? Like no sex, I was still eating chicken. He's like, you can eat chicken, but like no red meat. I could not cut the caffeine. Like I was like, nah, dude, like I'll do what I can. So went down there and we're out in the jungle, great people. And we're in these little tents, right? We all have these tents, but it's still like, a queen mattress in a bed, right? It's not like some like real, it's like glamping a little bit, right? But there's no air conditioning and stuff. It was still kind of funky. But it's this beautiful property. If you look from above, everything's geometric, right? And beautiful gardens and I was there for a week and we did 3 different ceremonies. But first I did the toad venom. I did bufo, where you smoke it. It's what Mike Tyson talks about. So it's the venom from this toad that's like the most pure form of DMT on the planet. So again, I've never done psychedelics, right? And we got off the little jumper plane on this like fucking dirt runway, basically. And he's like, you, and you. Like, you guys come with me. We're going to do the bufo. And I'm like, fuck, there's like 15 of us. Why is it just us 3? He's like, I know what you need, dude. I'm like, keep in mind, like, this dude has no medical background, right? He's not a psychologist, just my homeboy. So, we sit in the I think it's called the palapa, right? The circular kind of tiki hut thing. And this dude, like, he's got fucking tattoos everywhere and geometric shit. He's a really good dude. His name's Sam. He leads us through it. So me and another dude are on a mat. This guy's a fucking former hedge fund guy, just sold his fund for like $500 million. He's working through his shit, right? Him and his wife were down there. And so it was a cool, really interesting group of people, which honestly was good for me because I'm like, this isn't just some weird ass hippie people. Like, these are real business people and respectable people. And so they put us together. They have him hit it first, where it basically looks like you're like freebasing crack, right? It's a glass pipe with a blowtorch and you're just holding it. And this dude, basically immediately starts like wailing and crying. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't like this. When they immediately put it in my mouth, well, I kind of like, it's like it pushes you back. You're just like, ooh. And I remember saying like, yo, I don't like this. Like, I'm scared. Being like real vulnerable because I can hear this guy having a really powerful purge, if you want to call it. And they could see that I was like kind of feeling that. And then, so it's quick, right? I think 60 seconds, whatever. And they're like, hey, dude, like, here, do it again. Like, hit it again, right? So he's kind of settled down now. I hit it again. And that's when I felt like I fucking blasted in outer space, pretty much. And I just go back and they're kind of like sitting with me. I think they had like their hand on my chest and I remember like, and keep in mind, my family's Scandinavian, right? So I'm like, I swear to God, I feel like I dropped down out of space, like some superhero shit, like on the top of like a snow-capped mountain, like, and I look around, I feel like I'm in like a Scandinavian Viking village, like wearing a fucking bearskin coat with like a wolf dog. And I start saying out loud, we're so powerful. Like, I'm like, we're so powerful. We fought so hard to get here. And I was like, they're like, bro, you just went ancestral. Like, you just tapped into your ancestral line. I don't know what it is, right? I feel even crazy saying this shit because I'm not one of these types of people, but it was powerful, right? Where I'm like, where is this words coming from? And, but I remember like kind of coming to, and my buddy's just like looking over me. He's like, yeah, dude, like you tapped in, like you did it. And I did feel this overwhelming sense of relief and like a weight lifted off of me where there was, and it really made me think like there has been a lineage of men before me for you and I and you too, for us to be sitting right now that have been through some gnarly shit. Like for us to be in this air conditioned sick studio, our great grandfathers survived some gnarly badass shit, whether it was outbreaks, bear attack, whatever, right? And we don't think about that often.
Mm-mm.
And that was probably the biggest takeaway I had from that. It wasn't like some aha, why did I drink? Why did I have alcohol? It was like no.
Gratitude.
Yeah, it was gratitude for where did you come from, and you're not alone. Like you're part of something bigger than you. And it really put things in perspective for me where I'm thinking of like my dad, my grandfather. Like I never met my grandfather. They passed before I was, I think, 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
But just, I know like my great grandfather was a blacksmith and one of them was a professional violinist. He's the only one we know that had an alcohol problem. He died homeless, they found out. But he was like a concert violinist and apparently had invented some kind of hair dye or something. So intelligent, but had a drinking problem. Outside of that, you don't think about that, you know? And I think if we really pause to think about it, there's so much power in that. Like that's in us, that's in our DNA and our genetics. So that's where I found that was kind of the takeaway from that for me. And then you go and do the mezcal, right? The sweat lodge the next day, where that was gnarly too. We got these Costa Rican dude and his wife, they got dreadlocks and they're real like fucking, of the earth people. And we're in this sweat lodge and it was hot as shit. He's singing in, the chants or whatever. And that was cool, right? But it was intense. And then that night we go into the first ayahuasca ceremony and we got these beautiful girls. It was 4 girls running it. And they're all playing like violin and guitar and the medicine women. And it wasn't a traditional shaman like a Peruvian or Costa Rican guy. It was these 4 girls, one from Spain. I think the other 3 were American girls, but hippie chicks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they were all sitting and we go up one by one to get our serving of the medicine. And of course it tastes pretty gnarly and just kind of lay there. And I remember like not feeling much. And then, I remember like people say, oh, you might have to throw up or use the bathroom. Like didn't throw up, got up, used the bathroom. And I remember coming back down like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, and like the inner addict's like, oh, more would be better. And my buddy's kind of like, he's a fucking animal. Like I've never seen anyone, even when we were partying, like I've never seen anyone consume how he could consume and like keep going. He's like, oh, you should have another cup. And I was like, all right. Well, that put me over the fucking edge. And I believe everything happens for a reason. Like I don't feel bad about it because essentially for the next like 6 hours, I was in it, bro. I felt like I was going through an opioid detox. Like I felt like I was just twitching and in and out of bad dreams. And I remember seeing like visions of like literally like Tucker Carlson in the news where I'm like, and I think it was like, dude, I used to keep the news on 24/7 in my place. Like I'm informed and all this shit. And I'm like, bro, this is all noise. This is all shit you've been putting in that really doesn't do anything for you. It's out of your control. And I remember feeling grossed out seeing it, right? Just, I felt nasty. And I remember these girls, they would come and play music over you. And I think they could tell people like what you were kind of vibing, if you were high or low. And I remember this girl playing violin standing over me. And literally, I've never felt I felt like I could feel the emotions moving up my esophagus. Like the frequency of her violin was moving these emotions through me. And then I felt like I had to throw up. I felt the urge to vomit, like almost like grief and sadness. Of course, I didn't let it out because I've got my buddy's wife laying 2 feet from me. I've got a little bucket and everything they give you, but I was like, it was another lesson. I don't like to be seen as vulnerable at all. I got it together. I'm good. I'm cool. Like, look cool. And so I didn't end up purging in that sense, right? But out of like 15 people, me and his girlfriend were the last two in there, still kind of in the trance, right? Where one of the girls sat with a Bluetooth speaker basically for an extra 2 hours while we kind of came back. But it was going until 5 a.m. I was in my tent still going in and out, kind of snapping. And it was a little scary, but this is shit you have to go through, I've realized. It was transformative. And I remember the next day being real down. I felt like it was my first day of treatment. Really just like, I'm not feeling this. Like I was fearful. And I remember a group they were hiking to a waterfall, and I was like, and someone's like, yo, it's okay. You can just sit so I talked to one of the medicine girls, and I was like, plus, like, I didn't even throw up. Like, did I even purge? And she said, Chris, like, that's just like metaphorical. Like, you purged. Like, it's you. She's like, just think of it like you were so wound up with all this shit that came and just shook it out of you. Like, whether you physically threw up or didn't, whatever. I mean, I definitely went to the bathroom like I've never have in my life, where it was like, it's like getting a deep massage when you kind of doze off. That's very similar to the feeling of being in the trance. And that would happen to me sitting on the toilet, not to be too graphic, but it was like you'd be in this trance. And it's like, I also realized how much emotion we hold in our gut. I learned how to like read my feelings a little bit attached. Like, how's my stomach? How does it feel? And how much tenseness we hold. So that's why I encourage anybody, if they're going to do these medicines, I would do more of like a full week where you have multiple sittings, because if I just left after that, it wouldn't have given me what I needed. It was a part I look at like a combination. So I did that. Then we took a day off. And then the next sitting, another night, same thing, same ritual. Well, that night, it was very brief, but I remember basically feeling literally like this. Like, literally, it felt like someone putting their hand over my heart. Just this and then this. And it was as real as literally you coming and doing it to me. And I was like, oh shit, there it is. Like, and to me, I felt like the Aya, grandmother, whatever they call it, right? The Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. I felt like, I see you. I got you. You're safe. Like, everything's going to be okay. It was fucking powerful. But brief. Because I'm hearing other people like, oh, I saw this and this crazy experience. Everyone's different, right? Although they have done studies where a lot of people in these groups, they see the same things. Like, we're on this telepathic connection, which actually happened the third night with me, with the girl. So I had a little taste where I was like, okay, now I'm fucking seeing what people are talking about here. But that even was powerful to me, where I was like, all right, I'm connected to something. And because I've always been cool with the spiritual stuff, and like even growing up going to church, but like never like this intimate one-on-one connection. But I believe that I've felt it before, right? Even if it's just a group of people and you connect with everybody, you're like, there's something going here. So the final night, I had the full-on like fucking beautiful, like I was laughing, and I feel like I'm in some forest, like with fucking fairies and shit, and but just a full connectedness. I remember seeing like a connection of a rope twined around the whole group, and I remember in my mind saying to every person in there, like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. But they do say you can see some dark stuff, like if something dark you feel is coming in, you're not welcome here. They literally say that. And I was talking about it after, and one of the girls, I said, I saw this long coarse hair, and it was a skull, just a bare skull. And I remember saying, like, you're not welcome here. And one of the girls was like, I saw that same thing. Like, the same thing appeared to me. And I was like, all right, and we know this from studies. Like, there is telepathy to a degree. So, But that final one was kind of what wrapped it all together for me, where I felt this connectedness, this overall peace. And I had visions where there was stuff related to my business I saw. But the biggest thing was I felt like I was watching my life as a third-party viewer. I felt like I was like in the corner of this room looking down, and I was seeing me as a 10-year-old with my fucking backpack at school, in elementary school, like, and I was saying to myself, dude, everything's going to be okay. Like, you're safe. Your life's going to be great. It's like, and I watched myself like 12 years old, 15 years old, like talking, and they always say heal the inner child. I'd heard that and I was like, yeah, whatever, right? And it clicked. It was like, I literally felt like from a third person, I was looking at me and being like, dude, you were just such a scared little boy and you've been running from this or trying to medicate this, right? And I don't know where it comes from, but it was just like, kind of like, hey, dude, you're good, bro. Let it go. Like everything is, you're one of the girls, I'll never forget this. Her name's Mary Isis, beautiful soul. She's a guitar player and singer. And I remember when she gave me the cup on last night, she just looked at me and she goes, you're so helped. Like, just know that. Like, you are so held by the universe. And I think about that all the time where it's like, bro, we all have a divine reason to be here. I truly believe that now. Like, nothing is by chance. Nothing is by mistake. Like, there's a divine plan, especially, and it's sobriety. It's easy to see because I feel like when I'm living sober and aligned, things work out, right? Like, I really try not to overthink things now because as long as I'm doing right, the next right thing, things just fucking work. Like, you got to take that leap of faith sometimes, and it's easier said than done. But as long as I'm keeping my side clean, I'm good. And it became a very powerful lesson where I became a big believer in just karma and energy. And it definitely changed me to a degree. I don't want to say it made me like more soft or hippie-ish, but I became more introspective and kind of like the mirror concept, like we attract what we are, and like the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated. Like that became very simple to me. Like we're in such a you did this and women are doing this, right?
Yep.
And it's everywhere. And I think information overload, bro. I'm tired of hearing about biohacking and peptides or no peptides, and if girls would do this and if guys would do this and who's masculine and it's like, it's easy to sit there and say that, right? Until you're in the position. Like, until you're in someone else's shoes, you really don't know what it's like, right? And it made me, even my own situation where when I was younger, I'm like, oh, fucking psychedelics are weird. My friends had done them. I'm like, you got, like, what? They'd be like, what's school? And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean, what is school, bro? Like, you have to get a college degree. Like, you're not going to get a job. And then I'm like, I get it. Like, it's this construct that we have that who made this up? Like, when did this become the norm? So after that, I dabbled a little bit in the microdosing and kind of the mushroom stuff, and it opened me up to that, which I do think was a good thing for me for some anxiety and depression stuff. But I haven't been called to like do that anymore. I've seen some people kind of go down that rabbit hole, and you know, I've seen guys, especially with the drug stuff, they think like, oh, if I do ayahuasca, I'll be cured of my addiction. And they go in a loop of doing ayahuasca ceremonies. And I think it can be dangerous. I think sometimes you can go too far down the fucking rabbit hole and chase that too. I mean, there was definitely a beautiful thing. It opened up something in me differently. Like even to this day, I'll have nights where I look at the sky and the moon and it's like, it hits me in a way that wouldn't have pre that experience. And I just realized like it's there. I just have to put in the work, right? Whether it's some breath work or meditation, or I'll go to the drum circle on the beach and just kind of catch that vibe or something like that. Like it made me a lot more open to the holistic world, especially coming from a traditional medical background. I, if anything, became more of a believer in the unseen, unknown, the power of the mind and thought. And
dude, that's all spirituality. That's all like doing the next right thing, putting great energy out into the universe. Dude, when I'm walking around hating on everyone, hating on everything, this podcast is doing a little better than mine. I don't fucking like that, dude.
yeah.
My whole day is gone.
Yes.
And then it's a couple days of it. And then I thank God I have the awareness now and the tools to implement them. But where does that lead to? That leads to me fucking picking up drugs.
Literally.
That's what that leads to.
Yeah. Resentments.
Dude.
I catch myself with it even now, scrolling through Instagram, right? It's like, oh, this guy again. Or, and it's like.
Yeah, that's what you're going to be saying to me because my clips are always popping.
I catch myself now, though, where I'm like, why do you feel that?
Yeah.
And it's because you don't think you're good enough, basically, or you think they're better than you. Where now I'm like, no, go like that shit. Show love because that's what you want. Especially now that we're both in the social media world, right? And you're a business guy, you're a competitive guy too. We wouldn't be here if we weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to come at it like, dude, you're enough, and you can show love too. And in order to get that, give that. Like, we can all raise each other up. And that's probably one of the things I try to work on a lot now is don't compare as much. It's hard,
but it works out every time when you don't compare and you show that love.
Yeah, especially in Miami where it's like my homeboy, hey, I'll give you a ride home last night. We're in his Lamborghini, right? And I've done all that, had the exotics, cool. I just see it differently now because I'm like, that's not always the right attention, right? It sometimes draws the wrong energy to you, right? Like people can throw negative energy at you. But I have to control my side where everyone's on their own timeline, right? Like I've had ups and downs in business, made millions, lost millions, and I compare, and then it's like, dude, you're on your own time frame. Like, you don't know what God has in store for you next. Or I love the quote, like, God ruined your plans because your plans would have ruined you. Where it's like, you think you know what your idea is. You're like, I never thought I would even be in the lab testing space. I never thought I would own a lab. I didn't think I'd be in the lab grown diamond business. You know, I'm getting in the NIL sports agency. Like, I don't know the first fucking play to call in football. Like, I didn't play that shit, right? I don't know stats. Like, but these guys hit me up because they're like, yo, your mindset and your mentor and your wellness stuff is, you got it something different going that these kids aren't getting in a lot of places, right? So it's like the stuff that I was almost kind of like, I don't want to be seen as soft, right? Like, I don't want to like look like a pussy or the spiritual. It's like, that's exactly the shit that guys are coming up to me and saying, yo, bro, like, I really liked that video you put up the other day. You know, that vulnerability and that authenticity is like, I think especially now where all this fucking red pill manosphere shit, right? The Andrew Tate stuff. And it's like, I don't disagree with everything he says, right? There's some gems, but just like this whole, like, first of all, it's like, dude, you got rich off selling courses to kids. Okay, let's call it what it is. You're not some fucking genius. You're not curing cancer. But this whole tough guy shit, where I think about it, where I look at my friends in marriages, for example, oh, the dude needs to be like this. And where I'm like, I have friends that are gangsters that are the stay-at-home dads because their wife has a great business going, right? Like, everyone's situation is fluid. Everyone, like, to try to put a label on anything, right? Like, I had this conversation about peptides recently where some of my buddies are like, not about them, right? And I'm like, whatever, right? I'm lean more towards them, but it's because I've seen some people with autoimmune issues get better from them, right? Or hormones. We're like, okay, well, I've seen menopausal women basically solve their problems by taking hormones, bioidentical hormones. So it's like just being less judgmental and letting people live and let live, right? Like, it really, I would say the psychedelics, where now I almost find it kind of hard to be very opinionated on certain things because I'm like, bro, I've seen my own opinions change.
Yep.
Like, it's so hard to be like, this is the way things should be. Because then it's like, I think God has a way of playing tricks where you think you know something. He's like, well, let me throw a curveball. Yeah, it's like, well, let me put this person in your life that completely flips that thesis on its head, you know? So, but ever since that experience, you know, I think that gave me a lot of the deep work that's given me now this 6 years without alcohol and like hard drugs, I would say, right? But even the marijuana, that ran its course. You know, like I said, it may have served me for a time, and that might have just part of my journey. Like maybe it helped me for those couple years kind of get into a different place. But even that got to the point where I know I need to stop. My inner conscience knew, right? I haven't had some sobriety in the past. Was like, dude, things aren't going bad, but they could probably be better. Give it a shot, right? And it got to the point where it just stopped working also, right? It was kind of turned on me. I was getting paranoid, and I'm like, this is not the same weed that it used to be. We know this. And it really was, I look at like God removed it. Like it was kind of just one day, I'm like, you know what? I got to do something different. I don't want to say the pain, right? Because it wasn't like some hardcore stuff, but mentally, I had to hit my wits end with it. And then the nicotine just ran right with it. I never thought I'd quit nicotine ever.
And you quit it all 10 and a half, 11 months ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
The nicotine was the Zins and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And my dad used to be a smoker, and he's like, listen, dude, like I did the gum, I did the patches. He's like, just cut it. Just suck it up. Like it's gonna suck. And to this day, dude, I'm like, I haven't even smoked a cigarette in probably 10 years. And I'm like, God, I'd fucking kill for a Newport right now. Like I see people and I'm like, oh, well, it's better than vaping. So, or like I'll have a cigar, right? And I still am like, hey, because now everyone talks about how the nootropic effects and all this. So I'm like, shit, maybe I'll go back to nicotine eventually. But at that time, and there was some medical stuff that I was looking at with my gut that I was kind of like, all right, like let me just do a full stop, because I've never been fully free, right? Like I'm even traveling. I remember going to Africa, and I'm like, well, I better get 25 cans of Grizzly Wintergreen because I don't know if they have it over there. Where I'm like, it's the first time that I'm like, I don't have, and that's even weird to not, I mean, except for coffee, I guess, right? I still need my caffeine, but I'm just like, all right, dude, give it a shot, right? Try something different. And I wish I could say that everything was always great now, right? But life is still difficult, raw, maybe more difficult at times, but it's really built my faith a lot more. You know, I've definitely, I mean, the 12-step program, I'm really active. You know, that's 5-6 days a week. I go to meetings.
I love that, man.
And then church just became kind of a thing for me, you know, the last year. Like, never been anti, but I kind of just was like, you know, and it helps in Miami. A lot of the guys I train with just are church guys. And I think it's bigger than Miami. There's a movement we know going on with just religion in general. Young guys are kind of tapping more into something. I think us in sobriety have kind of had that. But I was like, you know what, maybe I can find some more structure within it. So, and I've kind of, believe me, I've danced all over the spiritual stuff and I've read a lot and I'm open to everything, but that just, I'm like, I look forward to Sundays now where I'm like, this is just another thing for accountability and discipline. And I look at it like it's just another classroom where I love to learn, where it's like, I was always so focused on learning the wrong things, where now I'm hungry to learn the right things. And really it's so much easier that way, right? Like let it go and just trust. Because I think of all these really bad situations I've been in, and I truly believe I've gotten out of them for a reason, because everyone's not been so fortunate, that I have to trust that it's for a greater purpose. And I know now, that's why I really kind of got into some of the coaching mentorship stuff, was like, I've made some money, done some cool shit, and that's all awesome. But helping someone else or feeling like you're helping them is like, dude,
there's no feeling like
right,
it.
you know this.
Yeah, there's no feeling like it.
Yeah, it's priceless. And I see a lot of money everywhere, bro. And I see a lot of people chasing the wrong shit. And I've been that person. And I still want nice shit and do cool shit. But I look at money as a tool now to hopefully share experiences with people that I really enjoy, right? But now I'm just like, all right, if I can help other people navigate some stuff and learn some more stuff along the way and really become, I just got to get out of self, right? If I sit in myself all day, like there's always a fucking problem. I'm always going to have my problems. And the only time I don't think about them is like yesterday I was at a meeting and we had a little book study after the meeting with a group of us. And one of the girls basically was just sharing about her dad has cirrhosis of the liver. and then he throws up blood every day and he's still drinking. And I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, that's heavy. That sucks. And like, I hate that you have to go through that, right? It's just, there's always someone that saying like, you could put your problems, sit in a circle and put your problems in the middle of the room. You're still going to grab your fucking bag of problems and take them. You'll hear everybody else's and you're like, I'll just go ahead and take mine back.
Exactly.
So, but I just know now that things aren't exactly how I'd love them to be. You know, life has challenges, but I fully trust that everything happens how it's supposed to. And in hindsight, it's always clear. And I've had those moments enough now. And I think mostly due to sobriety, those patches I've had those like moments of reflection where I just get a smile across my face. I'm like, fuck, I get it now. Like, this makes sense. This is why this had to happen like this. So I'm in a point now where I'm like, okay, I've been in some pressure points, right? I've been in stuff, and it's like that analogy, like the bow and arrow is getting pulled back and then blast off. So I'm like, pressure. I think you just learn to embrace the pain, you know? Pressure builds growth, and we would never have wisdom without it. Like, you see that, right? People that have an easy life don't have much to talk about. It's just like really trying to flip that, you know. Guys like TCAV have been, you know, big on that for me. We're just like, dude, embrace the suck. Like, that's why I love like the cold plunge and shit like that, where it's like, this sucks, but I'm gonna feel so fucking good when I get out of here in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Like, I'm gonna feel, my body will feel good, mentally will feel good, and that inner bitch just got beat.
You just align yourself the entire day. That little suffering, it's usually the fear leading up to it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So
if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Instagram's the best, Chris Broby Hansen, Broby. And then you can email me, Chris at chrisbrobyhansen.com or chrisbrobyhansen.com, my website.
Broby.
And I just built a badass, it's called the Blueprint Generator. This is an AI formulated like personality test exam, pretty much, that I combined Myers-Briggs, human design, the FBI assessment test, all these different modalities to kind of how to better understand yourself. I think if we can have a deep understanding of us and how we operate, it can be a good guide of, even with relationships. Like, I've had a lot of buddies do it, and they're like, yo, dude, like, this is really, really accurate. It's free. It's on my website, Chris Broby Hansen. It's on my Instagram, link in the bio, Blueprint Generator. Give you a personalized report. Just take you 8 minutes of answering questions, your birthday and shit like that. And super cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, taking the trip up from Miami, and getting vulnerable with us just to help one other person.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Glad to be here.